few other economic books. So here we have done with the concept of national income, isn't it? National income. What are the various concepts that we have studied in national income and all? So how do we calculate gross domestic product? How do we calculate net national income? How do we calculate personal disposable income? How do we calculate personal income? What is the formula for personal disposable income, and so on? So can anyone say what is the formula for personal disposable income? What is the formula for personal disposable income?
Personal income minus direct taxes.
Very good, very good. Personal income minus direct taxes. And what is the formula for next? Anyone else? Can you give the formula for per capita income? How do you calculate per capita income?
Total income by population.
Yeah, total income, total national income of one country divided by total population of the country, per capita income. This is what the per capita income. And how do we arrive at NNP? NNP, net national product, is equal to
GNP minus depreciation.
Yeah. And what is the distinction between GDP and GNP? What is the difference between GDP and GNP? Gross domestic product and
net
gross
factor income.
Very good. Net factor income from abroad. If you add net factor income from abroad to GDP, we get GNP. And from GNP, if you deduct depreciation, we get NNP. So this is how we calculate a national income. And these are the concepts that we have in the case of national income. So now going to the next concept, there are two more concepts left over in unit 1, inflation, and the next concept is business cycle and phases and features of business cycle. This is what you have. Now inflation is what the concept. Inflation is defined as a persistent increase in the general price level or a persistent decline in the real income of the people is known as inflation, or a decline in rupee value is also known as inflation. So it may be in any form, but in general, the bottom line of the concept of inflation is general increase in price levels. So the general increase in price levels refer to when the purchasing power of an individual can't meet the prices. There starts the concept of inflation. So inflation, and as I said, any economy faces two situations. One is inflation, one is deflation. Inflation refer to persistent increase in the prices. Deflation refer to persistent fall in the prices, but from the mere decades, that is why I can say clearly from your decades or from the time of your birth, I think there was no situation of deflation at all. That is, consistent fall in the prices is not at all there in the case of Indian economy. So we are in the situation of inflation only. So here the present inflation rate is 1.53. So in the year 2018, there was a drastic increase in the inflation due to recession in the software sector. There was a huge increase in the inflation in 2018. And the impact of 2019 was a little bit reducing of the inflation rate. And again, due to the pandemic in the year 2020, again, the concept of inflation have been increased to an extent. So here it would be measured in points, as 1.53 is 2021's inflation rate. How is the price? This would be consumer price index. Based on the consumer's price index, they calculate the concept of inflation rates as of the increase or decrease of inflation. And there are many factors that have involved in the increase and decrease of inflation. Now the general reason for inflation or the causes of inflation is what we go in the next concept, causes of inflation. And here do remember one time increase in the prices due to natural calamity or due to new tax regime or due to any change in the wage and salary administration doesn't constitute the concept of inflation, because such one time increase in price levels would be corrected automatically in the next academic or in the next financial year. But if there is a consistent increase, that is persistent, and persistent refer to continuous increase in the prices, leads to inflation. It's not one time increase in the prices due to any external factors, like for example, suddenly there is a prohibition of some imports into India that leads to increase in prices in India. So that's not the first one-time concept. Or natural calamity, like suddenly there is a lot of rains which led to disasters in the crop of rice, which led to increase in the prices. That would be pertaining to only that particular area. Again, next time what happens? Again, there would be normal rain, normal crop, normal prices. So always remember there is a distinction between increase in the prices for one time and persistent. Persistent increase constitutes inflation, not one time increase in prices leads to inflation. And this is what the concept of inflation. And here, the next, economics categorize inflation into two: price inflation and money inflation. What do you mean by price inflation? Price inflation is nothing but increase in the prices. Increase in the prices, and when the money that the consumers have doesn't meet with the prices, that leads to price inflation. Anyhow, these do have cause and effect relationship. These price and money inflation have cause and effect relationship. Why? Because the two have cause and effect relationship. Often the price inflation is the effect of money inflation. When money supply increases persistently, it increases the price inflation. Money supply refer to more amount of money in the hands of the consumers. What might be the reason? The reason might be the government may be printing additional money, or there may be many banks who are ready to give loans at a low rate of interest, or there may be a reason of FDI, that is foreign direct investments, where foreigners are ready to invest in our company. Foreigners are ready to invest in the company. Foreign direct investment is foreign companies interested in investing in the business is known as foreign direct investment. The another reason is FII, that is foreign institutional investors. What do you mean by foreign institutional investors as a reason of inflation? These are the foreign nationals interested in buying the stock of Indian companies. So this might be the reason where there would be more money supply in the hands of the consumers. What happens if there is more money supply? More money supply, more demand. And if there is more demand, this demand can't meet supply, isn't it? It's not easy to suddenly increase the supply of goods and services. It takes time, as the manufacturer, the producer should increase the factors of production. What are the factors of production? Suddenly overnight, we can't increase our machine capacity. Suddenly overnight, we can't increase our labor. Suddenly overnight, we can't increase our capital. We can't increase all the factors, as it takes time for the manufacturers and the producers to meet demand. Supply to meet demand, it takes time. So the gap is leading to inflation. Okay, the reasons may be more money supply. What are the reasons of more money supply? As the government may be printing additional money by the government to meet its government expenditure. FDI, foreign direct investment, for then FFI, that is institutional, foreign institutional investors, or banks and financial institutions are ready to issue loans so that there would be more money in the hands of the consumers. or more disposable money in the hands of consumers. So this is what the concept of
Excuse me, ma'am.
inflation. Yeah. Yes.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt, ma'am.
Yeah, tell me.
Actually, many of my classmates have been waiting to enter the class for the last 10 minutes. Could you please once let them in?
Yeah. So this is what the concept of inflation. Now going to the next one, the economics categorize inflation into price inflation and money inflation, but both have cause and effect relationship. Now going to the cause of inflation, causes of inflation or types of inflation. So causes of inflation constitutes, the first one is excess money supply. What do you mean by excess money supply? This is just now we have discussed about it, isn't it? Money inflation is the reason as to why there is an inflation in the economy. So excess money supply is a single reason for price inflation because it can be directly linked with increase in the aggregate income. Excess money supply directly linked with increase in the demand or aggregate demand. What happens if the demand increases? Simultaneously, the supply should also increase, but the supply takes time to increase. So this is the reason as to why, as the people have more money, there is more demand. Supply can't meet demand, so prices go up. This is known as excess money supply as one of the reason of inflation. And this leads to the second one is demand pull inflation. When the aggregate demand level increase due to more money supply, any reason, supply of output is unable to meet and match the increased demand, which creates inflationary pressure, thus built to known as the demand will pull the inflation up. The demand will pull inflation up, which leads to demand pull inflation up, which leads to prices going up. And this may be causes of this may cause due to any one or the combination of two factors. Demand pull inflation may be a reason of any one factor of this or a combination of these two factors. So as again, the reason is increase in money supply or increase in more money in the hands of the consumers, and the second one is increase in the disposable income, as disposable income is equal to personal income minus personal taxes or direct taxes. So if there is more money in the hands of the consumers which is ready to spend, then that would be the reason of demand pull inflation. More money, more demand, less supply, which creates a pressure on the demand, inflationary pressure on the demand, leading to increase in the prices. So this is known as the concept of demand pull inflation. The high demand, increase in aggregate demand leads to inflation. So they have been given few examples for this. Why the students are joining even at 2:20, Nana? Why are you joining even at 2:20? Who are the students who are joined just now, 2:20? And you didn't on the cameras. Did you on the cameras in the morning, all of you? We have got the instructions that you need to on your cameras, isn't it? If not absent, the students who are there have to be posted absent is what we got the instructions from the HODs in the morning. Did you all on your mic camera in the morning? Nana, it's a question that I'm asking you all. Did you on your camera from the morning classes? So increase in the disposable income, it is the money in the circulation that brings rise in the prices. That is, if there is more money in hands of the people, that brings the prices up. So example is what they have gave is earlier we used to have a tax regime where lower income group people, the rates of taxes were less, and women employees and women taxpayers, they used to have a concession of more exempted income, and senior citizens have more of exempted income. The minimum slab for senior citizens were also given more benefits, so that the tax regime would be one of the reason as to why there is an increase in disposable income. Our India's tax regime is that such that more income, more tax, less income, less tax. And here, the people whose income is more than 10 lakhs and the people income is who's beyond and up to a particular limit, they are even liable for surcharge. What do you mean by surcharge? Surcharge is nothing but education says tax on tax. If your income is increasing above the limit, then not only the slabs that are applicable, plus you need to pay surcharge plus education cess plus higher education cess. It's nothing but tax on tax, which increases a huge tax burden. Higher income, higher rates of taxes plus surcharges. So that is what the tax regime that we have. But middle income and lower income people have less rates of taxes, which is what the reason why there is more disposable income in the hands of the consumers. But now there is no distinction between women taxpayers and men taxpayers. The new tax regime has removed this concept totally. And yes, we have senior citizens. Basic exemption is 7 lakhs. Okay. So this is how benefits have been given for senior citizens. And obviously, there would be no income much for the senior citizens except the pension income and the savings and the benefits that they get in the form of retirement benefits, isn't it? So therefore, this is what the benefits that have been given, but only for senior citizens. The benefits for women and the low income group people have been abolished. All are common up to 5 lakhs, the basic exemption, no tax. The next reason for demand pull inflation is increase in aggregate spending. So here, the latest scenario of the generation that we have in the society is what the economy says, that people are more worried about the current spending and not worrying about the future savings. So therefore, this is what one of the reason as to why the people have more money in the hands, the tendency of having more money in your hands to spend. So here the economists say that the present scenario is people are more worried in enjoying the money. Whatever earned is whatever spent, not whatever earned is equal to spend plus savings, is what the economy says. As the perception and the tendency of the society's generation have changed, there is a low tendency to save. As this is also one of the reason demand has pulled the inflation up. What is the tendency that you all have, Nana? Do you have an intention of saving the your salary once you earn income, or do you spend the whole salary whatever you earn? Do you have a tendency of saving? You prove the economics are wrong, that even you have a tendency of saving. Yes. So what percentage of savings? As per law earlier, as per income tax law earlier, there is compulsory that every 1/16th income should be saved. Yeah, investment is also saving, isn't it? Investment is also a saving. So every 1/16th, and 100 rupees, 16 rupees should be saved, is what the rule or which was there earlier. But now the scenario have been changed, and the concept of saving have also been changed. So this is what the concept. Aggregate spending, the tendency is also the reason. Now, increase in population, this exactly suits our India, as you know what is the Indian population and how fast do the population of India do increase, as one of the main reason why our country is still a developing country. So increase in population is also one of the reason where demand can't meet the supply, And increase in population is an important factor which affects the price levels. As increase in population, increase in demand creates a gap between demand and supply. As it takes time for the manufacturers to increase the supply, the same way as how now suddenly there is a increase in demand of vaccines, isn't it? Increase in demand of vaccines, where we are facing the shortage. As the number of cases have been increasing, people are running back. All the eligible people are running behind the vaccination, as it's to an extent preventing the concept of COVID or getting positive. Or even the co-fever, that is the injection, that is the medicine for curing the COVID. There was a little less production, as there wasn't presumption that till March there is a control of COVID, so there is no need of much supply of this co-fever, that is remdesivir injection. But suddenly the times have changed, the second wave have come, so there is an increase of demand. But now, can we meet the supply? This leads to increase in prices, or purely what we can say is black marketing. What is the price of the injection that now people are giving at black marketing price, or what we say it as huge prices, as even people are ready to buy it 35,000, or actually what is the cost of that injection? Any idea? Any idea of the price of that injection that I'm talking about? No? I think it's 1,400 or somewhat, but now it is being sold even at rupees 35,000. Why? Because patients are increasing, but the supply is the same. The supply is the same, so therefore we can't meet the demand with the supply. So this is what the concept of demand pull inflation. This is what the reasons. The first one is increase in money supply, increase in disposable income, increase in aggregate spending, increase in population of the country as the reason why. Increase in demand leads to inflation, as there is a gap between demand and supply. Now going to cost push inflation. Cost push inflation is the impact of demand pull inflation. Once the demand increases, each and everyone tries to supply. Then what happens? There is a shortage of factors of production. Shortage of factors of production. What are the factors of production? Labor, raw material, machinery, money, finance, and so on. So once everyone start producing it, there would be a shortage of factors of production. The cost of production increases as there is a shortage. Simultaneously, what would be the impact? Increase in cost of production. So which results in cost will push inflation up. Demand pull inflation up, cost pushes inflation up. Is that clear? And here, what are the reasons for cost push inflation is low increase in supply of goods. Why? Because everyone are ready to manufacture now, produce now. The technology have to be improved. Government policies of minimum limit should be improved. Material competitors and so on would be the reasons of low increase in supply of goods. Or even the obsolete technology, that is outdated, poor and old technology hampers the supply. Deficient machinery, that is a shortage of machinery, would be the reason of low supply of goods. Then scarcity of resources. What do you mean by scarcity of resources? That is shortage of 4Ms. What are the 4Ms? What are the 4Ms? Can 7N answer? What are the 4Ms? Seven N. Man, material, money, and machine. Yeah. So yeah. These are Management is not there. Men, material, machine, and money are the 4 M's which are managed by the management. So therefore, this would be shortage. Why? Because everyone are now ready to produce, which would be the shortage of all the 4 M's. Natural calamity is one of the reason which hampers the supply. Like exceptional rains or exceptional weather conditions, like either too hot or too cold or many rains might be the reasons, or industrial disputes and external aggressions. So industrial disputes are not there now. Why? Because this was there earlier. We have many Industrial Disputes Act 1956, 1991, and so on. Now we don't have much industries, neither the industrial disputes. Why? Because everything is now systematic as per the law. External aggressions might be such as, we can give an example. In the year 2009, there was an Telangana agitation till 2012, isn't it? So that can be taken as an external aggressions. And the disputes, which was the last that we can give an example as, isn't it? I don't know in which class you were at that time. In Telangana agitation, where our base school exams have been postponed for the 6 times in the year 2009, and we have been given holidays for 1.5 months due to Telangana agitation in the university. So this is what, due to the external aggressions, that would hamper the concept of supply to meet the demand. Now the 4th type and the cause is built-in inflation. Built-in inflation is a type of inflation that has resulted from past events and persist in the present. The reason of inflation is due to past events which persist now is known as built-in inflation. It is also known as hangover inflation. Why? Because the reasons are not of present scenario. The past events are the reasons of the present inflation. So this is another type of inflation, and that would be the reason for inflation in the present. Like for example, this COVID's impact would be inflation in the future. The COVID impact on the economy would definitely show in the future as an example that we can give as built-in inflation. Past COVID as a reason of present inflation. Okay, so this would be the reason of built-in inflation, which would have impact on consumers, producers, and the government. So this is known as inflation. And see here, Nana, the diagram clearly shows how is the inflation is. In the first diagram, when the demand have been increased from D1 to D2, AD1 to AD2, the demand have shifted up. When the demand increases, the demand curve shifts up. When the demand decreases, the demand curve shifts downwards. And it is a downward sloping curve from left to right. Always a demand curve would be a downward sloping curve from left to right. Why? Because when the prices are up, the quantity demanded would be less. When the prices are less, the quantity demanded would be more. And the x-axis is the quantity and the y-axis is the price. So here in this diagram, if the demand have been increased from D1 to D2 without any change in the supply, you can see the prices have increased from P1 to P2. Is that clear? That is known as inflation. When demand increases but supply can't meet the demand, that leads to inflation. What do you mean by inflation? Persistent increase in the prices. So P1 to P2 is what the increase in the price levels. If the other diagram shows if there is simultaneously increase in the supply, there is no change in the prices at all. Is it clear, Nana? Did you follow, all of you? This is what the graphical presentation of inflation. How does it persist when demand increases and supply doesn't increase? And when demand increases and the result is supply also increases, there is no inflation or no increase in price. Is this clear? Yes? Are you following, all of you? Yes? So this is what inflation. Now the next concept what you have is, what would be the government doing when it has inflation? What are the factors that the government takes or the actions that it takes to control inflation. So the central bank comes into the picture to control inflation. So that is known as money supply and inflation is what the next topic that you have. In India, the central bank is RBI. In India, the central bank is the RBI, which controls all the factors, all the policies which would be followed by all the commercial banks. And commercial banks include both national banks and private banks, which are affiliated to the central bank, that is RBI. So RBI controls all the policies whenever there is inflation, and when the inflation is going out of control, this comes into the picture. That is, the central bank comes into the picture and take necessary actions to have a control over the inflation. So now the next topic is money supply and inflation. When inflation or deflation is prevailing in the economy, the central bank controls the money supply in the economy. And as I said, what is the central bank in India? RBI is the central bank in India, which controls all the monetary policies in the commercial banks in order to curb more money supply. So here, what happens? The central bank provides loans to commercial banks. The commercial banks provides loans to the general public or the consumers. So this is how there is a chain, and all the rules, policies, and monetary policies would be framed by the central bank, which should be followed by all the commercial banks. So commercial banks refer to all the nationalized and private banks which are affiliated to the central bank. That is how our banking sector works in India. And what are the measures that are taken by the RBI to control inflation? The first one is bank rate policy. What do you mean by bank rate policy? Bank rate policy refers to the rate at which the central bank charges interest to these commercial banks. So if the central bank, so always remember central bank ante I intend it as RBI. So if the central bank thinks that there is more money in the hands of the commercial banks, what does the central bank do? It increases the rate of interest that is charged to commercial banks. This results in increasing the rate of interest to the general consumers of commercial banks, where the loans becomes less attractive, isn't it? Normally, if the rate of interest is more, people think twice, how much will I pay at the end after my maturity time? So if the rate of interest is more, your EMI increases, your interest amount increases. That would be an demotivating or less attractive for the consumers to take more and more loans. If RBI increases the rates of interest, commercial banks increases the rate of interest, which would be costlier to take loans to the general public. So this is for one of the measure that is taken in order to control money supply in the market. Did you follow, Nana? Bank rate policy is the first one. Did you follow, all of you? Yeah. Now going to the second one. Open market operations. So how do the RBI controls open market operation as a second measure? So here, if the commercial banks want to be affiliated to the central bank, it needs to have securities of central bank. Okay, certain percentage of securities should be having by the commercial banks of RBI. So when the RBI thinks there is more money in the hands of the commercial banks, the RBI sells the securities so that securities would be going to commercial banks, money would be coming to RBI. Is it clear? The securities would be going to the commercial banks, money would be coming to RBI. And reverse at the time of deflation. The RBI purchases the securities so that money flows back. Money flows back to the commercial banks and securities come back to RBI. So this is an open market operation that is done by RBI to control money supply in the commercial banks in the economy. So like how all the affiliated colleges are affiliated to JNTU, and JNTU rules and regulations should be followed by all the affiliated colleges. The same way, RBI is the main central bank which controls all the monetary policies of commercial banks. So if it thinks there is more money, it sells the securities, so that securities flows to commercial banks and cash comes to the RBI. Is it clear, Nana? The second one? Is the second point clear? Open market operations. Now going to the third point. The third point, reserve ratios. Reserve ratios constitute two, CRR and SLR. CRR refer to cash reserve ratio. SLR refer to statutory liquidity ratio. So what do you mean by CRR? CRR refer to commercial banks need to maintain certain amount of reserves with central bank in the form of liquid cash. Commercial banks need to maintain certain percentage of reserves as CRR with central bank. When RBI feels there is more of money supply, it increases this percentage, like 50%, 40%, 60%, like that. So that cash would be blocked with this central bank. That cash will not be allowed to give loans to the general public. If RBI feels there is less money supply, thus percentage would be reducing. This is known as cash reserve ratio. Now coming to the statutory liquidity ratio is a percentage of demand or time deposit in the form of cash or gold to be maintained with the commercial banks as a liquidity requirement. It's compulsory. As per rule, all the commercial banks should maintain certain percentage of cash or in the form of gold as a liquid requirements. If it feels that there is more money, this percentage, SLR percentage, will also be increased, and reverse, vice versa. If there is less money supply, this would be reduced. So this is known as reserve ratio. Reserve ratio constitute two, CRR and SLR. CRR refer to cash reserve ratio. SLR refer to statutory liquidity ratio. The first one is purely cash. The second one will be either in the form of cash or gold. As gold has 24 karat gold has 0% risk to convert into cash. So the the commercial banks can either have in the form of cash or can have either in the form of gold. Is it clear? So this is known as SLR. Increase at the time of more money supply, decrease the percentage at the time of less money supply. Now going to the next one, D, point 4, fourth point of money supply and inflation. Credit rationing. What do you mean by credit rationing? Rationing is nothing but blocking certain sectors to issue loans. So RBI, if it feels there is more money supply, it controls or prohibits to give loans to a particular selected sectors, such as software sector, fishing sector, mining, agriculture, small scale industries, large scale industries, like that. The economy is divided into various sectors. So it may control or curb or impose certain restrictions to a particular selected sector in order to control money supply. The next one is moral suasion. Fifth point is moral suasion. What do you mean by moral suasion? It's nothing but frequently the RBI issues requests that shouldn't give much loans or credit facilities to a particular sector or to all sectors. The moral suasion is nothing but frequent request by the RBI not to give without any solid reason the credits to the general public is known as moral suasion. Now going to the direct action, in spite of moral suasion, if the commercial banks doesn't listen, then direct action against the commercial banks if they are not controlling the loans in spite of direct instructions given by the RBI. Now going to the Seventh point, fixation of margin or ceiling. What do you mean by fixation of margin or ceiling? It's nothing but as I said, the RBI issues securities and the commercial bank should possess securities. So against certain percentage of securities, they issue the loan amount. So if RBI feels there is more money supply, such margin would be increased. Such margin would be increased. If the RBI feels there is less money supply, the margin would be reduced. Like 100 securities, 50% of loan would be provided. Like 200 securities of RBI, 75% of amount of loan would be provided. So such is known as fixation of margin or ceiling. It's compulsory to possess securities of RBI by or the commercial banks. Such ceiling or margin would be increased or decreased based on money supply. Whenever the RBI thinks, how is the money supply in the economy? Now going to the last one, deficit financing. What do you mean by deficit financing? It's nothing but the government fills up the gap between PR and PE. What do you mean by PR? Anyone in the class? What do you mean by PR and PE? This we have seen in my macroeconomic concepts. What do you mean by macroeconomic concepts? 6M did not on your camera. $70 did not on your camera. 6M, 6R. So what do you mean by PE and PR? What do you mean by PE and PR? PE refer to public expenditure, PR refer to public revenue. When public revenue is less than public expenditure, there is a gap. And what do the government do? It increases its printing of more currency to fill up the gap between public revenue and public expenditure. To fill up the gap between public revenue and public expenditure, the government prints more currency in order to fill up the gap. So these are the 8 measures that are taken by the central bank to control inflation. So inflation is of 3 types. Demand pull inflation, first one is demand pull inflation, cost push inflation, then built-in inflation. And the next concept is money supply and inflation. When inflation increases, RBI is requisite authority who controls inflation in the economy. So this is all about money supply and inflation and inflation. Any doubts in this? Any doubts in this? Inflation and money supply and inflation. Clear? Yes, all of you? 6M, is it clear, Nana? Okay. So here, but none are answering when I ask a question. So you know you have unit test, you know you have mid-marks, you know you need to have 3 credits for BEFA, isn't it? It does not intend that if you attend online, you need not listen or see whatever you want, or you need not listen at all. It's not that, isn't it? The same 5 marks you have for assignment, the same 20 marks you have for your mid, the same 75 marks you need to pass, isn't it? Keeping the credits aside, WEFA is very, very important because you live in the economy where you earn in the economy, isn't it? So you need to know what really happens in the economy. It's not that you are out of the world, or you are no way connected with the economy. You don't want to learn any concept in the economy because you don't earn here. If you go abroad also, you need to know the economy of the abroad, isn't it? So what really happens in the economy is what you need to know, isn't it? So why are you so irrelevant and not at all bothered about what really happens? And I'm shocked that except Janavi and the others don't know what really happened in the last class. And even this year, Sahul, I think he has test positive. So he said, Akash, that he is not well. That might be the reason. But I'm shocked that no one know what really happened in the last class. So I should start checking the notes. I should start checking you. At this age, you are matured, isn't it, Dana? What I'm teaching, am I talking nonsense, which is irrelevant, which you don't want to listen? This is what really happens in the economy, in which you earn, or which you start a business, or which you do your employment, where you work under an employee. Am I talking a nonsense where no one is bothered to answer, no one is bothered to take down the notes, no one is bothered to respond at all? So then I have to go to the next level. I have to come down to the next level, not going to the next level. Come down to the next level. Checking each and every one by asking you questions. Make your camera on. For unit 1 is business cycle. The last concept. So today we have conducted the subject meeting, and where we have decided to conduct Viva for your first unit test, where we'll be asking the questions for all the sections, IT 2 sections and A to G. Till next Wednesday, we need to finish off our unit test 1 of unit 1. So all have decided to conduct Viva. So we'll ask you on your camera and ask you the questions related to unit 1. So I will forward the PDF and the PPTs of unit 1 today. Okay, so this is what the concept of business cycle and phases of business cycle. The last concept in unit 1. What do you mean by business cycle? Like we are talking here about the business in the economy, not a single business. So here the last concept in unit 1 is a business cycle. What do you mean by business cycle? It's nothing but how do all the business in the economy run, which is measured by this following graph. Can you see the graph, all of you? This is nothing but the business cycle graph. And always remember, never will the business. Yeah, Nana.
Ma'am, you're not sharing your
it.
screen, ma'am.
Okay.
Could you please?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see now?
No, ma'am, it's not visible.
Yeah. So now the business cycle is the following is a figure of a business cycle, and business cycle is nothing but the measurement of the flow of economy of the business in a one country is known as business cycle, which is measured with GNP. And here, how do we arrive at GNP? GNP is equal to, how do we arrive at GNP? Business cycle is measured by the percentage of GNP. GNP is equal to GDP plus factor income from abroad. The increase or decrease of percentage of GNP is measured in the business cycle. And do remember, business cycle refer to a particular business, but all the businesses in the economy, which is measured in the percentage of GNP. And always, never will be a business cycle would be a smooth straight line. Why? Because it has to face so many unforeseen situations due to economy, various pressures such as change in the stock market, change in the inflation, change in the employment, change in the wage rates, change in the tax regime. Many macroeconomic concepts lead to loops in the business cycle. And here, a business cycle have two turning points, having four phases, starting with the contraction, trough, expansion, and peak are the four main phases of business cycle. As the causes are these: increase or decrease in the national income due to employment, due to less income, due to tax rates, due to economic conditions, or due to fall in the value of rupee, or due to fall in the imports or exports, net exports, fall in the net exports, are the various reasons as to why the percentage of GNP falls. And that creates a pressure which leads to contraction. What do you mean by contraction? Contraction is nothing but a situation where all the business activities or economic activities lowers down. All the economic activities lowers down, where there would be no economic activities carrying on in the economy. And what are the features of contraction? The features of contraction are like this. The first one is, like, we can relate this with the current scenario of this COVID situation. There are workers who are willing to work but cannot because no one is willing to hire them. There are workers who are willing to work but cannot because no one is willing to hire them. And there are consumers who are ready to spend, but there is no income in their hands, or the income have been reduced because there is no employment. And the firms are ready to invest and produce and hire the workers, but cannot because there is no enough demand. Why there is no demand? There is no capability of the consumers to buy. There is no money, isn't it? When investment reduces, production slows down, increasing to unemployment, reduction in income and consumption. This is a situation of contraction or a recession. Contraction is also known as a recession. As the recession we have faced in the year 2018, where many software employees have lost their jobs, isn't it? One fine day, the company have given the pink slips to so many in order to cost cut their HR, human resource power. Why? Because there is a recession where all the business activities have come down. There were no projects, and the projects who are there were many minimal. So more of cost where the company can't bear the cost. They have removed the employees as a recession. So this is what the concept of contraction. Contraction is one of the phase where slowing down. If you see the diagram, all the economic activities have come down. Now, contraction will lead to trough. Trough is also known as depression, where all the economic activities will become zero. If further the contraction is extended, that leads to trough. What do you mean by trough is also known as recession, depression. The features of trough is depression, or it is also known as slump. And this is the lowest phase of trade cycle. Trade cycle, business cycle is also known as trade cycle. And this is a point where it's a minimum point which leads to a turning point for the next phase. That is the expansion phase. As remember, any phase in the business cycle is not permanent. Due to factors of economy, each and every phase should be moving on to the next phase. That is contraction, trough, expansion, peak. Then after peak, again the next turning point, that is the contraction. Okay, after contraction, trough, trough to expansion, expansion to peak. So here, which would be measured in foreign exchange rates also. And remember, the period from B to E, that is from point B to point E, may take 6 years to 12 years, and the point D to G will also may take 6 years to 12 years. It depends on the economic conditions. And starting 3 to 6 years is expansion, and the remaining 3 to 6 years would be the contraction. This is how B to E is what one loop, half expansion, half contraction. The preceding expansion is peak, the preceding contraction is trough, and which takes years to pass from one loop to other loop. Is that clear? Now, as I said, no particular phase is permanent. So each particular phase will lead to the other phase. So after contraction, the next one is expansion. So like, for example, immediately if the government take necessary actions to control inflation and to control the concept of recession, and bring more and more policies to control business cycle recession, that leads to expansion. Expansion is a period which we also known as recovery. Recovery from which? From trough or recession, where in this phase, all the economic activity surges, increases. Now the employees' production goes up, employment goes up, consumption goes up. Now employees are ready to work, consumers are ready to spend, industries are ready to recruit and start production. This is the stage of expansion. The peak is the highest point of growth, hence it is referred to as peak or boom. Peak or boom. And this is a stage where beyond there is no further expansion. It's only a turning point, but not further expansion. As in reality, any process of growth cannot continue for indefinite period of time. It slows down, thereby leading to the turning point of, what is the next turning point of peak? Can anyone answer? Peak tarvata next phase enti malli? After peak, again what?
Contraction.
Contraction. Yeah, contraction. Contraction followed by trough, trough followed by expansion, then again peak. As I said, it may take 6 to 12 years to shift from one loop to another, 3 years to 6 years from expansion, and 3 years to 6 years to contraction. So this is what the concept of business cycle, features and phases of business cycle, end of unit 1. So refer once the syllabus. Did I cover all the concepts that you have in unit 1? Janavi, may I know what is attendance before classes? Is